Hello everybody. Today we're going to look at the final project, or what we have completed in the Southern New Hampshire Gaming 312 Game Programming and Development course. The objective of this particular class was to build an interactive level with inventories, crafting, player statistics, and collectibles. So we had to make some collectible trees, berries for food, and rocks. The trees or the lumber and the rocks are used for the crafting in the building system. So let's go ahead and look at play. So we got here, okay, you can see an AI NPC wandering off in the distance there. Let's see, we got some trees here, so let's go ahead and craft. We have a objective system, okay. You find yourself in wilderness with nothing but your clothes. Survival depends making a shelter, which first requires resources. Cut down trees and break apart rocks for resources. Gather berries for food. Okay, so we need 500 resources. I have it set so we don't have to gather a ton of different items. It'll give us quite a few, I think like 50 per gather for now, just for demonstration purposes. You can see in the top left corner, the health is, or the hunger bar is ticking down. And once the hunger bar hits 0, the health will begin ticking down as well. If the health gets to 0, we lose. So I'm going to do 2 quick playthroughs. First one is going to go start gathering stuff, and then I'll let that tick down. So, okay, click. So gathering some wood, got 50. 150. Okay, that tree should then despawn because I got everything out of that. Yep. Rocks. Okay, I got a fracture system set up on the rocks. So we'll go ahead and hit it. That gives 50. Hit it again. That gives us 100 and a third hit. That's the final fracture, and that gives us 150. Okay, berries. We start gathering berries. Okay, we don't need a lot of these. It just gives 1 berry each. Okay, so that shows gathering of all 3 items. Let's see, we need 500 resources though, so let's get a couple more wood. Let's get some more rocks. Okay, that gives us our 500. We are now on objective number 2. Now that you have some resources, build a shelter to protect yourself from the elements. Okay, see in the top left there, you can see the health is now ticking down, and the stamina regenerates over time. You can boost it up more by eating berries, but we need to build 5 items to win. So let's come in here. Let's go ahead and build a 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, actually, we'll build 1 of each, not 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so there's 4 out of 5. Go ahead and pop over to the build. Okay, so you can see we'll go ahead and keep building on this item here. So we'll build there. I'm using snap to grid on a 100 grid scale snapping. Okay, build a ramp there. Build a floor here, and let's go ahead and add a window right there. And you can actually pick blocks back up by right-clicking and holding for 2 seconds. And it'll pick the block back up, adds it back to your inventory bar there. And let's go ahead and put it underneath that window there. Make it a nice, pretty bottom to the window there. Alright, so that's how we got all these structures, and if we were to exit, it would come back. Okay, let's get out of build mode. Okay, you can see the health is almost ticking down there. I'll go ahead and let that tick down, then we'll come back in. Build real quick to demonstrate the win situation, because this will demonstrate our lose situation. Alright, so here's a bigger rock. That'll become a fracturable rock later as well. Gather a couple more resources. Fracture system is so much fun. What you're doing is you're adding a force impulse at that point. Okay, we're about to lose in 5 seconds. 2, 1, and you lose. Okay, hit reset. Ooh. As you were. There we go. Okay, so let's get some resources real quick. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, we got some rocks. Get some more trees. Need some stamina. Oh, one more thing, rocks. Okay. Oh. There we go. Okay, we got all of our rocks. Craft. During the game, they said the win requirement is you only had to craft 5 items. It never said anything about actually building 5 items. So you'll see, okay, there's 2, 4, and then 5, and you are a winner. So that met the requirement of the game win screen. So we saw the win screen, we saw the lose screen. For the widgets, we saw the objective system transition from one to the next. We saw the crafting and building system with the HUD overlays. We saw the collecting systems for the wood, stone, and the berries, and you saw the player HUD with the stats. the player movement. Obviously, we were moving around. And we had the three stats. You saw that hunger was decreasing, stamina decreased when we gathered, but it regenerated over time, and you saw the health decreased after the stamina was lost. After your health hits to 0, if you did not meet your objectives, we saw the lose widget pop up, and then we went back in, and with the um, there was the reset, okay, and then you saw that with gathering the 5 items and the rebuilding, it helped us win. So, and there's that structure that we actually just finished building with the fancy windowsill. And it basically, there's the save system. So a save system and a pick back up system of the blocks, that is a bonus above and beyond what the course asked for. The course also only asked for 3 building items, a floor, a wall, and a roof. The windows was a bonus item that I created as well. The fracturing of the rocks, that is also a bonus crafting or bonus feature as well added to the game. We also had to do some hills and textures, so I just did simple green for the grass, brown for the rocks. Okay, so how does all of this work? Okay, first thing we'll do is we'll come over here to the code, part that nobody likes to look at, but is super important. Okay, so for the health, stamina, and hunger, those are managed on the C++ player character through dynamic delegates, multicast delegates. Okay, I'm also using uh, easier to show it in here on the character. I'm using a modular character, so I can swap out the different body parts. So you can see, there's upper, lower, heads, feet, and you can swap out all the different parts for different armor sets in the game. So the modular character is also a bonus feature with a root mesh. And the event graph, we merged them all together in the construction script with a leader pose component. It used to be called the master pose component, but with the recent version of Unreal, people felt master was not politically correct, so they've renamed it to leader pose. Main pose would also be a viable name as well, but in this case it's called leader pose. Let's see. So all that's created inside the C++. Camera is here. That was one of the requirements to have a camera component. Resource components, crafting components. So for the resources and the crafting, I'm actually using separate components. If I were to rebuild this project from scratch, I'd also put all the player stats in a separate component. And I would probably also add a inventory component itself instead of just storing the inventory inside the crafting component. Let's see. We're using the enhanced input mapping or enhanced input system new to Unreal Engine 5. Looking down here. Okay, we got our player stats widget. We're pushing our player stats through C++ via the widgets. Okay. We got our game over function here. We have our health, our stats here, and then our delegates named here. We add our stats HUD, and we also remove our stats HUD for various different interfaces, like when we're doing our building crafting screens, we remove them. All widgets are removed, and then we call a function to add the stat HUD back on after we're done with the crafting and building screens. Okay, we have a function for set health and stamina, hunger. We also run the decrement loop. We're not using tick in this one yet. In this case, we're using a timer handle, which is called in begin play. Let's see, in begin play, we're running a timer handle for the stats decrement loop, which basically goes through and decrements the stats on a 1 second timer. Let's see, set health, broadcast, set stamina, broadcast, set hunger, broadcast. We also clamp it between hunger, so we can either increase it or decrease it. And it's clamped between 0 and 100. Okay, then we decrement stats. We decrement once every timer loop. We decrement 1 float value, -1 float out of the set hunger. We take 5 away from, or we add 5 to the stamina. When we gather things, it uses up 15 stamina. And then if the hunger is less than or equal to 0, then we start decrementing our health by 1 float value per tick of the timer handle, not tick, 1 increment of the timer handle. Okay, we have our gather resources in here with a hit result, where we get our Boolean. Did we hit something? If we did hit something, then we get the actor from the hit actor. If we did get a hit actor, then we check, is it a resource? We cast to that. If it was a resource actor, that if we're able to cast that resource actor, then we go ahead and start getting the resource type as well as the remaining value that's within it. And we subtract. If we were successful, then we go ahead and subtract 15 from the stamina, decrement the amount of that resource. Each resource has its own decrement value as well as how much resource you get out of it each time. So we, on the resource actor, we decrement the amount that's left inside the actor in the world, and then on the resource component on the player, we go ahead and add that to our resource by the resource type and the gather amount. So as you saw with the berries, when you gather berries, you get 1 berry, but for the stone and the trees, you get 50 resources, just because I want to be able to get to that 500 mark relatively easy. Every once in a while, you'll see these G-Engine ads on-screen debug. These just are great for troubleshooting as you're developing the game. When you do your build, they would not be included because they're a screen debug feature. But for when you're testing different features out in the development process, it really helps to be able to see issues like how much resources, what resources you hit, what your stats are, and things like that before you've actually made your widgets to display that type of stuff. Here's our interact function. So we do a line result. This is how we can left click to gather our different resources. Okay, instead of running it over a tick, we run it over when you run up to it. You just left click on it to gather it. All right, that's that. Adding, removing the player stat HUD. Looking at some of the other components, I don't want this video to get too long. Let's see, what are we at now? 11 minutes? Okay, I don't want to keep it too long. So let's look at our building blocks. Okay, so the building blocks, we set up rotation of the blocks. So if you saw in the top right corner, when you're building, hold this up real quick. So when you're in building mode, you can see up in the top right corner, the Q and the E you can use to rotate blocks. Let me pick up one of these blocks and you can see that. So click for 2 seconds. Okay, got that. Okay, so if we want to put it down a roof block, let's say we want to put it here, you can see that it doesn't match up. So you can hit Q or E to rotate either direction, and that's set inside the building block mode. The basic building block. So I tried to encapsulate everything. So everything dealing with the building blocks is all inside the building block class. Everything within the crafting is all inside the crafting component. That way, and as I mentioned before, if I were to redo the stats, I'd make that into its own component. That way, everything is independent of each other. Encapsulation, which is good programming practices. Tracing under our cursor to see what we're picking up or where we're placing it down. This helps us do our snap to grid. So basic building block, we create our static mesh. Rotate yaw, pitch, roll. In this case, we're actually only using the yaw. Move to cursor. So this is when you're placing the block. We get a F hit result by calling the trace under cursor to get the hit result. Snap location, our hit location, and you can see if we got a hit actor, get actor location. If it wasn't a hit actor, then we get the hit location, and then we go ahead and snap it to the grid. So this is if you're placing a block that doesn't exist. The first one is if there's a block there, it'll snap to the placement of the previous block that's there. So that way you can click on the top, or you can place blocks on top of each other or on the sides of each other. But if you click on the world terrain, you cannot just snap to the world terrain. Otherwise, it's always going to go to 0, 0. So instead, you look at the hit location, you snap it to the grid of the world itself. So that's what these two do, is let you snap it to, or put something down on the terrain or onto another block. And then set actor location, and we set it snapped. The trace on a cursor was that function we pulled up before. All it is a line trace. It returns the hit location to the under the cursor, and then snaps the blocks to wherever the cursor is touching, whether it's a block or the ground. All right. I do use tick here if a block is selected. A block is selected is if it's actively attached to the cursor. That way you can move the blocks around just using the mouse. If you have no blocks attached to your cursor, then this tick is not being used. Take a look, crafting component. Okay, on our header file. Okay, a dynamic delegate for our crafting items. So it broadcasts out what item we've crafted and how many of those items we've crafted, so they can add them to our building blocks. Okay, we use a T-map here for the type and the integer. We have function for change items, for true or false, return function for crafting items, and then a quantity for get item amount. And then we broadcast our delegate for on crafting updated. Coming over here to the CPP, changing the item function. Okay, we find or add um, we're checking the T-map to get the quantity, or to change the quantity to increase it or decrease it by the quantity that we've passed in. And then we update. If it can find it already in our component, then it'll add to it. If it can't find it, then it sets it as the initial value inside the array. Okay, and then we go ahead and broadcast the item and the number of crafted items. Craft item, I never actually didn't need to actually implement this item right here. Get item amount. Okay, so basically we're passing in the item. We're checking to see if that item exists in there. And then we use a ternary operator to pass either the quantity. If the quantity cannot be found, then it passes back 0 instead. And that's that. All right. That's all I needed for the crafting component. There are more advanced features that I was planning on implementing, but the course did not require it, and I started working on one of my own projects in the background. Okay, crafting components. Yep, we already looked at that one. The crafting types is just a simple enum showing wall, floor, ceiling, window, as well as getting a count enum by range. This helps us build our T-map. For data library, started transitioning all of my structs over to here. So we got T subclass of, and this is our A building block type, which we looked at earlier up here, as well as a transform, and this is so that I can save the information later on for those types of items in a save file. Okay, we got our subtask data. Okay, Boolean, our item counts, subtask summary, and then is it completed? This is for our objectives tracking. And then we have our objective data, which is the is it completed or not completed, what the summary is. If there's subtasks, such as gather resources might be the task, and the subtask might be get 500 resources or get 500 ceiling, get 500 floors, something like that. And then a simple narrative was that big box that you saw in the center there. And then whether the objective was complete or not. So this is for the subtasks, and this is for the main objective right here. Let's see. So many things to look at here, but some other simple ones that we can look at. Those are the main ones. I don't want to get this video going too long. We're already up to 18 minutes. So we'll probably cut it here, but that met all the requirements. I do need to show the bit bucket real quick. Okay, the bit bucket, we've been doing pushes throughout. I break off, do branches. Sometimes I forget to do branches and got a little bit lazy here, just pushing the master. But in general, push the branches. That helps do rollbacks. And if you're working on a team, that would demonstrate that each person would be working on their own branches. Let's see, anything else required? Okay, that looks like about the list of requirements. Thank you, everybody, for your time. And I know this was a long video. It was a long 2 months of development for this project here. It's kind of on the basic side. I've actually already started making a much more advanced survival system, RPG system using inventories, but based upon the foundations that were developed in this class here. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.